Hello everyone, this is Dr. Taruna Bansal from the Department of Geography, Jamia Millia Islamia, and today I would be speaking on wetlands and biosphere reserves. Now, before we start, we have to understand what is a wetland. A wetland is a unique ecosystem where water is the primary factor controlling the environment and the associated plant and animal life. They occur in area where land is covered by water either permanently or seasonally. They have been defined as lands transitional between terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems where the water table is usually at or near the surface or the land is covered by shallow waters. Now, as per the Ramsar Convention, wetlands are areas of marsh, fen, peatland or water, whether natural, artificial, permanent or temporary, with water that is static or flowing, fresh, brackish or salt, including areas of marine water, the depth of which at low tide does not exceed 6 meters. For example, marine and coastal areas, estuaries, lakes and rivers, marshes and peatlands, groundwater and human-made wetlands such as rice paddies, shrimp ponds and reservoirs. They exist in every kind of climate, be it a tropical climate or a tundra climate. They are found in every continent except Antarctica. What are the major characteristics of wetland? So, there are basically three major characteristics which describe a wetland. First one is hydrology. There is a presence of water at or near the surface of the land for a particular amount of time in a year. The sources of water may include precipitation, surface water that is either from rivers or from sea, and groundwater. Second is soil type. They are covered with hydric soils. In such soil, the spaces between each gram of soil are filled with water. These soils are anaerobic, that is, it lacks oxygen. And the third important characteristic is the biota. Plants that live in wetlands and are adapted to this hydric soil are called hydrophytes, which is example, silver maple, mangrove, cypress. As we classify all the other areas, landforms, there is also a classification of wetlands. The first one are the marine wetlands, which are the coastal wetlands including coastal lagoons, rocky shores, seagrass beds and coral reefs. Second, we have the estuarine wetlands, deltas, tidal marshes and mudflats and mangrove swamps. Then we have lacustrine, that is something related to lakes. Then we have riverines, which are associated with rivers and streams, and palestrine, which means marshes. So, it is related to marshes, swamps and bogs. Now, when we say these types of wetlands, so we are some of the areas which are wetlands are swamps, marshes, bogs, lagoons, mangroves, tidal flats, oxbow lakes, salt pan, coral reefs, underground aquifers, paddy fields, delta areas. Coastal wetlands. Coastal wetlands are found in the areas which are between land and open sea that are not influenced by rivers such as shorelines, beaches, mangroves and coral reefs. A mangrove swamp found in the sheltered tropical coastal area is an example. Shallow lakes and ponds are also wetlands and are areas of permanent or semi-permanent water with little flow. These include basically the spring pools, the volcanic crater lakes, the salt lakes. Marshes, these are periodically saturated, flooded or ponded with water and characterized by herbaceous, that is non-woody kind of vegetation adapted to wet soil conditions. They are further characterized as tidal marshes and non-tidal marshes. Now, what are swamps? Swamps are fed primarily by surface water inputs and are dominated by trees and shrubs. We have bogs. Bogs are waterlogged, peatlands in old lake basins or depressions. Almost all water comes from rainfall. Estuaries, the area where river meets the sea and water changes from fresh to salt, can offer an extremely rich mix of biodiversity. They include deltas, tidal mudflats and salt marshes. Now, so why do we need to understand or know about these wetlands? Because they are not only the tourist spots, but they also have an ecosystem or ecological importance. They are the most productive ecosystems and provide a wide range of ecosystem services. The importance of wetlands can be understood by, when we understand the services they provide. Firstly, they help in flood control by acting as natural sponges. They temporarily storing and gradually releasing stormwater. The roots of wetland vegetation hold soils in places, thus stabilizing the banks of rivers and streams. Secondly, they play an important role in maintaining the quality of water in deep water ecosystems. They trap the sediment suspended in water, a process which is called sediment tapping. They also remove phosphorus and nitrogen and help prevent eutrophication of lakes and ponds. For this function, they are known as kidneys of the earth. So, when we talk of Amazon forest, we say they are the lungs of the earth. So, the wetlands are the kidneys of the earth. Thirdly, wetlands host a number of species of microbes, plants, insects, amphibians, reptiles, birds, fish and mammals. Fourth, they help in carbon sequestration. They act as carbon sinks and wetland soil contains a high amount of carbon. Next, they help in natural groundwater recharge and discharge. They store water that replenishes the groundwater. Further, they discharge groundwater into lakes, rivers and streams during dry periods. They also help in regulating local climatic conditions, particularly related to temperature. Finally, wetlands provide large number of economic benefits. These include water supply, fisheries, timber and other building materials, energy sources such as peat and plant matter, wildlife resources, medicinal plants and above all, tourism opportunities. They are highly productive ecosystems and nearly 2/3 of the fish harvest comes from here. They are an integrated role to play in the ecology of the watershed. The microbes which are found there are part of the global cycles of water-nitrogen cycle. As I already said, they work as carbon sinks. Therefore, they have stores of carbon within them. Wetlands function as natural barriers, Why? Because they are trapping the surface water, rain, snowmelt, groundwater and even the floodwaters. They are critical to human and plant life and around 40% of the world's species live or breed in wetlands. They are vital source of food, raw materials, genetic resources for medicines and also hydropower. They play an important role in transport, tourism, culture and spiritual well-being of people and provide a habitat for a wide variety of life, supporting plants and animals that are found nowhere else. These are areas of natural beauty, promoting tourism and many are important to aboriginal people. They provide important benefits for not only us, but also for the industry. Like the entire tourism industry is there. Apart from that, they are also famous or critical for commercial and recreational fishing industries. So, why are they called Ramsar site? They are listed at Ramsar Convention because the human beings wants to preserve it and advance sustainable utilization of its natural resources. So, what is Ramsar Convention? It is an intergovernmental environmental treaty that calls for international cooperation and national action to safeguard and sustainably use the wetlands. The official name of the convention is Convention on Wetlands of International Importance, especially as waterfowl habitat. It is the first and the only global treaty which goes for the conservation of a particular ecosystem. The aim is to develop and maintain an international network of wetlands which are important for the conservation of global biological diversity and for sustaining human lives through the maintenance of their ecosystem components, processes and benefits. This was signed on 2nd of February 1971 in the city of Ramsar situated in Iran. and that is why it gets the name as Ramsar Convention. It entered into force in 1975. As of 2019, it has 171 members. India is one of the members. 2nd February is celebrated as World's Wetland Day every year. These sites are maintained in Montreux record to track any major ecological changes that may affect any of the wetland sites positively or otherwise negatively. Now, Montreux record under the Ramsar Convention is a register of wetland sites on the list of wetlands of international importance, where changes in ecological character have occurred, are occurring, or are likely to occur as a result of any technological development, pollution, or any other human interference. It is maintained as part of the Ramsar list. Currently, 2 wetlands in India are in this record: Kolkata National Park, which is in Rajasthan, and the Lokta Lake, which is in Manipur. Chilka Lake, which is in Orissa, was part of it but was later removed. When one joins this convention, each party undertakes to designate at least one wetland site for inclusion in this wetland list. The inclusion of a Ramsar site in the list embodies the government's commitment to take the steps necessary to ensure that its ecological character is maintained. At present, there are about 2,414 Ramsar sites. The first Ramsar site was the Coburg Peninsula in Australia. United Kingdom, with 175 Ramsar sites, has the largest number of such sites. Nilgiri Main Dome in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Queen Mouth Gulf in Canada are the largest Ramsar sites. In India, we have around 42 Ramsar sites as of December 2020, with a surface area of about 1 million hectares. Chilka Lake, as I said, and the Keoladeo National Park was the first Ramsar sites in India, although Chilka Lake is not in the record, but it is a Ramsar site. Uttar Pradesh has the largest number with 8 Indian wetlands. Chilka Lake is the largest in India. Renuka Wetland in Himachal Pradesh is the smallest wetland of India. Now, I have given here the names. I will just read down which are the 42 Ramsar wetland sites as of India. So, the first one is the Asan Conservation Reserve, which is in Uttarakhand. Then we have the Ashtamudi Wetland, which is in Kerala. It is a natural backwater in the Kollam district. It forms an estuary with sea at Neendakara. Then National Waterway 3 passes through it. The third one is the Biosphere Conservation Reserve, which is in Punjab, and it is dotted with islands, sandbars, and braided channels. The reserve hosts the only known population in India of the endangered Indus River dolphin. So, you have heard of the Ganges dolphin. We also have, Indus dolphin in this Biosphere Conservation Reserve. In 2017, this was made mandatory that the critically endangered gharial is also found there and should be added. The fourth one is the Bhitarkanika mangroves, which are found in Odisha. They are a wildlife sanctuary, and the core area has been declared as the national park. We have the Gahir Matha Marine Wildlife Sanctuary, which is adjacent to this, which is famous for the olive ridley sea turtles and the saltwater crocodiles. The core area has been declared as national park. It also includes the Gahir Matha Marine Wildlife Sanctuary and has been designated a Ramsar Wetland of international importance in 2002. It is, as I said, has been known for the olive ridley sea turtles. Then we have the Bhoj wetlands of Madhya Pradesh. They consist of 2 lakes located in the city of Bhopal, the Bhojtal and the Lower Lake. It is a human-made reservoir. The largest bird of India, the Saras crane, is found here. The Chandratal wetland in Himachal Pradesh is the high-altitude lake, supports IUCN red-listed snow leopard. Chilka Lake in Orissa said the largest wetland, Brackish-Water Lagoon, which is at the south of the Daya River, is the largest coastal lagoon in India. Birds from all over the world, from Caspian Sea, Lake Baikal, Aral Sea, other remote parts of Central Asia, Ladakh and Himalayas come here. In 1981, it was the first, it was designated as the international wetland of international importance under the Ramsar Convention. The Nalbana bird sanctuary is the core area. The Irrawaddy dolphin, which is critically endangered, is found here, is one of the flagship species of this particular wetland area. Also the Irrawaddy dolphins. Then we have the Deepor Bhil in Assam, a permanent freshwater lake in the former channel of Brahmaputra river, few kilometers to the left of Guwahati, where Pobitura Wildlife Sanctuary is found. We have the East Kolkata wetlands, a multiple use of wetlands that serve the city of Kolkata. Harike Wetland in Punjab, a shallow water reservoir at the confluence of Bias and Satluj river. We have Hokera Wetland in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, a natural perennial wetland contiguous to the Jhelum Basin. We have the Kabarthal Wetland, which is in Bihar. Then we have the Kanjali Lake in Punjab. This is again very significant because it is associated with one of the first gurus of the Sikh, Sri Guru Nanak. We have the Keoladea National Park, also known as the Ghana National Park in Rajasthan, a complex of 10 artificial seasonal lagoons varying in size. There is it has a mosaic of scrub and open grassland and provides habitat to many wintering and stagging migratory birds. The next we come to is the Keshapur Miyani Community Reserve of Punjab. This is again, you see there are large number of these wetlands which are found all over India. As I said that we have 42 wetlands. Now this particular reserve in Punjab is an example of wise use of a community managed like wetland, which provides food for people and supports local biodiversity. So each of these wetlands which we are which I am telling you about has its own importance and has its own local use. Kohler Lake in Andhra Pradesh, it is a natural eutrophic lake situated between the river basins of Godavari and Krishna, previously a lagoon. Now it is several kilometers inland due to the coastline of emergence in delta formation. Lokta Lake is the largest freshwater lake in the northeast part of the country, and it is the national park where you have the Fundi thing. Then we have the Lonnar Lake. Lonnar Lake in Maharashtra. We have Nal Sarovar Bird Sanctuary in Gujarat, then which is a natural freshwater lake in the relict sea and the largest natural wetland in the Thar Desert. Then we have Nandur Madhyameshwar in Maharashtra. The construction of the Nandur Madhyameshwar at the confluence of Godavari and Kadwa rivers helped to create thriving wetland. We have Nangal Wildlife Sanctuary in Punjab, which is located in the Shivalik foothills and have abundant flora and fauna and some of the endangered Indian pangolin and Egyptian vulture. It also has a human-made reservoir constructed as part of Bhakra Nangal project in 1961. The site is of historic importance as the Indian and Chinese Prime Minister formalized the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence here in 1954. The Nawabganj Bird Sanctuary is in Uttar Pradesh and has been named as Chandrasekhar Azad Bird Sanctuary. Then we have the Parvati Agra Bird Sanctuary in Uttar Pradesh, a permanent freshwater environment consisting of 2 oxbow lakes. This is a sanctuary to the threatened, endangered vulture species and Indian vulture point. We have the Point Kalimar Wildlife and Bird Sanctuary in Tamil Nadu, where we have one of the last remnants of the dry evergreen forests. Habitat is dry evergreen forest and mangroves. Now we have Pong Dam Lake, which is found in Himachal Pradesh, also known as the Maharana Pratap Sagar or the Renuka wetland. It's a natural wetland with freshwater springs and inland subterranean karst formations. Then again coming back to Punjab, we have the Ropar Lake, which is a human-made and formed of the construction of barrage for diversion of river from river Satluj. Then we have Rudrasagar Lake in Tripura, which is a reservoir fed by 3 perennial streams discharging to the there. We have Saman Bird Sanctuary and Samaspur Bird Sanctuary in Uttar Pradesh. We have Sambhar Lake, which is in Rajasthan. Now Sambhar Lake is a saline lake. It's the largest inland saltwater lake and it is a key wintering area for tens of thousands of flamingos. We have Sandy Bird Sanctuary, which is in Uttar Pradesh. It is typical of the Indo-Gangetic plains. Sai Nawar Jheel, Uttar Pradesh, again in Uttar Pradesh, which is a permanent marsh and an example of cohabitation of humans and wetlands and wildlife. It is the site name is derived from the large non-migratory bird, which is the Sarus crane. After this, we have the Sustamkota Lake in Kerala. It is the largest freshwater lake in Kerala, situated in the Kollam district. River Kalada has a unique replenishing system through a bar of paddy field, and it is now depleting because of the destruction. We have Sambhar Wetland. It is located within the largest mangrove forest in the world. It is the largest Ramsar site in India. The Indian Sundarban, covering the southwesternmost part of the delta, constitutes over 60% of the country's total mangrove forest and 90% of the Indian mangrove species. Next, we come to the Surinsar Mansar lakes, which are found in the Union Territory of Jammu Kashmir. The freshwater composite lake is semi-arid plains. We have then Surinsar, which is found in Uttar Pradesh. We also have the Somori Lake, which is in Ladakh, a freshwater to brackish lake, which is lying at the height of nearly 4,595 meters above sea level, and it is said to be the site which represents the only breeding site of the black-necked crane outside China and the only breeding ground for bar-headed geese in India. The great Tibetan sheep of Argali or Tibetan wild ass are endemic to this region. With no outflow, evaporation in this particular has caused varying levels of salinity. Upper Ganga river, which is in Uttar Pradesh, the river habitat for IUCN red listed Ganges river dolphin and Gharial crocodile. Vembanad, we have the Kohi Wetland in Vembanad, which is the largest lake again of Kerala across Alappuzha, Kottayam and Ernakulam district. It is the second largest Ramsar site in India after the Sundarbans. It is below sea level and famous for exotic fish varieties and paddy fields that are below sea level. Vulla Lake is also the largest freshwater lake in India. Now, these wetlands are, although being part of the Ramsar Convention or have been, included in the United Nations program, have been threatened by urbanization, agriculture, pollution, climate change, dredging, draining, introduced species as well as sanitation, but salinization. But India has made certain efforts and is looking forward for wetland conservation through the Wetland Conservation and Management Rule of 2017, National Plan for Conservation of Aquatic Ecosystem, Wetland Health Card, where the government identified 130 wild wetlands and said that the health of these wetlands will be restored. Now we come to the second part of my presentation, which is the Biosphere Reserves. Now, Biosphere Reserves are sites established by countries and recognized under UNESCO. UNESCO's Man and Biosphere program to promote sustainable development based on local community efforts and sound science. Program of Biosphere Reserve was initiated in 1971, and there is the purpose of the formation of the Biosphere Reserve is to conserve in situ all forms of life along with its support system in its totality, so that it could serve as a referral system for monitoring and evaluating changes in natural ecosystems. The first Biosphere Reserve of the world was established in 1979, and according to UNESCO July 2021, there are around 714 Biosphere Reserves across 129 countries in the world. Now, when we see there are about 85 sites in 31 countries in Africa, 33 sites in 12 countries in the Arab states, 157 sites in 24 countries in Asia and the Pacific, 302 sites in 38 countries in Europe and North America, 130 sites in 21 countries in Latin America and Caribbean. Now, Government of India has established 18 biospheres in the country, which is referred related to the IUCN Category 5 protected area. Now, here I have given this list, which are the Biosphere Reserves, which I will discuss, but first we need to understand the salient features of these Biosphere Reserves. It comprises of terrestrial, marine ecosystem as well as coastal ecosystems. People are integral component of this particular system. Their status is internationally recognized and ecosystem oriented. Boundaries are circumscribed by legislation. Attention is provided on gene pool conservation. They are nominated by the center and under the sovereign jurisdiction of state where they are located as a role. Right now, what is the role? Why these biosphere reserves are being so administered? Because they are part of the ecosystem and are very essential for the what should I say, for the entire mother nature. Now, these biospheres in India or any part of the world are formed to achieve three main functions. So, what are the functions? One is conservation of biodiversity and cultural diversity inside the reserve. So, inside the reserve one has to conserve economic development of the reserve, that is socially and culturally and environmentally sustainable. And thirdly, to provide logistic support and achieve development through research, monitoring, education and training. So, the main aim is to attain integrated management of land, marine, freshwaters, living resources by placing bioregional planning schemes based on incorporating conservation to development through proper zoning of the reserve areas into three parts. As you can see here, I have given the diagram where the zonation is like we have the core area, which is strictly protected ecosystem. We have the buffer zone, which is used for activities compatible with sound ecological practices for research, monitoring, training and education. Then we have the transition area, which is the greatest activity is allowed, like activities that are socially and culturally and ecologically viable. We also have human settlements, we have research stations, we have monitoring, education and training, and also tourism and recreation. So, why we need to understand this particular the topic biosphere reserve is basically because as these are one of the areas where tourism activity has been initiated, keeping in mind that whatever activities are done here, they are compatible with ecological practices and they are socially, socio-culturally and ecologically sustainable. Now, biosphere reserves generally consists of natural parks and sanctuaries which are protected under the Wildlife Protection Act 1972. As I said, the core areas are securely protected sites which are basically to conserve the biodiversity. These are minimally disturbed ecosystems undertaking non-destructive research, and there are no low impact. So, you usually do not visit the core area. Now, apart from the conservation function, the core area has contributes to range of ecosystem services like carbon sequestration, supply of clean water and air and soil stabilization. Now, as I said, the next one is called the buffer zone. It is basically surrounded and adjoins the core regions and can be used for activities compatible with sound environmental practices. So, we have environmental education, we have recreation, we have ecotourism, we have applied and basic research. So, basically this is one part. If you are visiting any biosphere as a tourist, this is one place where you would be going. Now, this is also has a crucial connectivity function because it connects biosphere with components of the core areas with those of the transition areas. They have intrinsic functions of maintaining anthropogenic, biological and cultural diversity in the biosphere reserves. So, next we come to the transition area, which is the outermost area of the biosphere reserves, and it plays a central function in sustainable development. These are areas where you have variety of agricultural activities, settlements and other uses, and then the local communities, management agencies, scientists, they work together to maintain and manage this particular area. Now, the main characteristic of biosphere reserves is, as I said, is to achieve conservation, development and logistic support is there. Then we have to see that these outpacing traditionally confined conservation zones through appropriate zoning combines are zones where the local people are also taken into consideration. Now, the multi-stakeholder approach is emphasized on because there is involvement of local communities and in the management of this. in situ conservation. That means the conservation will have will take place within the natural habitat of the species, is also one of the major functions. Integrating cultural and biological diversity, especially through the traditional knowledge in ecosystem management. Acting as sites of excellence for education and training, participating in the world network. Now, here you can see how this is the Nilgiri Biosphere, where you can see it's there. Now, I'll be discussing different important biospheres which are there in this. First is the Nilgiri Biosphere. Now, Nilgiri Biosphere is part of the world network of Biosphere Reserve. It is in parts of Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, and it's the largest in Tamil Nadu. The core area is around 1240 to 50 square kilometers. Now, river Bhavani, Mayur and Kabini, which are the tributaries of Kaveri, flow through this particular thing. You have moist evergreen to semi-evergreen type of vegetation here. Some of the dry deciduous forests are also there. Some of the like animals like fauna, Nilgiri tahar, Nilgiri langur, loin-tailed macaw are also found here. Then we have the Malabar giant squirrel also. Some birds like Nilgiri laughing thrush, Nilgiri flycatcher, Malabar grey hornbill are also found. Tribal groups like Todas, Kotas, Irulas, they all stay here. Now, these are native to this particular reserve. Now, the second reserve which we are talking of is the Nagarhole Park, which is also called, which is a tiger reserve. The third one is the Bandipur Tiger Reserve. Then we have the Mukuturi National Park. We also have the Silent Valley National Park. We have Aralam Wildlife Sanctuary. We have Siruvim Hills, Nilambrum Hills, Wayanad Wildlife Sanctuaries. And we have like 80% of the flowering plants are reported that are found in these Nilgiri Biosphere. So, the Nilgiri Biosphere, as you see, is a huge area which consists of number of wildlife sanctuaries also. Now, next Biosphere Reserve which we come is the Nanda Devi Biosphere Reserve, which is found in Uttarakhand or Uttaranchal, which is part of the Chamoli, Pithoragarh and Bageshwar district. Rishi Ganga is the river which flows through this particular biosphere. Some of the flora which is found here are birch, rhododendron and juniper. The climate is usually dry with yearly very few low yearly precipitation. In fauna we have here brown bear and also pheasant, Koklas pheasant. Bhotias are the indigenous tribes. Some of the national park which we find within this Biosphere Reserve is the Nanda Devi National Park, the Valley of Flowers National Park, and the entire area is located within the Western Himalayan endemic bird area. The third which we talk of is the Nokrek Biosphere Reserve, which is in Meghalaya, a part of the Garo Hills. Now, here you have the rivers of Ganol, Daring and Simsang. The evergreen and semi-evergreen deciduous forest is found here. Tropical monsoon type of climate. We have several fauna types like the giant flying squirrel, pig-tailed macaw and Garo, Bania, Hajons. These are the indigenous tribes. And the Nokrek Wildlife Sanctuary is part of this particular national reserve. We come to the fourth one, which is called the Great Nicobar Biosphere Reserve. It is in the southernmost islands of Andaman and Nicobar rivers, and you have tropical and subtropical moist broadleaf forests here. The flora is also very varied. We have the Nipa palm here or the Ceylon ironwood, and among the fauna, that is the animals, you have the saltwater crocodile, you have the giant leatherback sea turtle, Malayan box turtle and the Nicobar tree shrew. We also have pythons over here and the giant robber crab or the coconut crab. Nicobaris and Shampun are the indigenous tribes. The larger Kampun Bay National Park is on the northern part and the Galathilla National Park on the southern. We also have the Gulf of Mannar, the fifth national the Biosphere Reserve is the Gulf of Mannar of Tamil Nadu. The Indian part of Gulf of Mannar is between India and Sri Lanka. The Malavathu Oya of Sri Lanka and the estuaries of Thamira Barani River and Viper River of South India drain into Gulf vegetation. So, vegetation we have the tropical dry broad-leaved forest, seagrass, coral reefs, salt marshes and mangrove forests. Some of the endemic flora is found here like Jatofra, morning glory and Halophila grass. We find sea cow dugong, sea anemone, sea fans, and it is the first marine biosphere reserve in India. It falls within the Indo-Malayan realm. Now we have the Manas Biosphere Reserve, which is in Assam. It is part of the western, part of the western northern Biosphere Reserve, and part of the delta of Ganges and Brahmaputra river system is part of this Manas Biosphere Reserve. We have semi-evergreen deciduous forests. The flora and fauna again are varied, because we have tropical monsoon type of fauna. We have the golden langur, we have the Assam roofed turtle, and we also have certain tribes here like the Bodos and the Adivasi tribes. It has 6 national and international designations like the World Heritage Site, National Park, Tiger Reserve, Elephant Reserve, Biosphere Reserve, and important bird area. Now we come to the Sundarban Biosphere Reserve, which is in Bengal. It is part of the delta of Ganges Brahmaputra river system, and as well as some part of Meghna. It has tidal swamp forests, which are known as the mangrove forest, mainly brackish water, and major flora which you find here is the sundri trees, and fauna we all know the Royal Bengal tiger, the Bengal monitor lizard, Gangetic dolphin, Asturian crocodile, all are found here. We also have Chandra Bhande tribe as the indigenous inhabitants here. We have some of the national parks here like the Haliday, Lothian, then Sajnikha, all these wildlife sanctuaries are here. Next biosphere is the Simlipal Biosphere Reserve of Odisha. It is part of the Mayurbhanj district, and rivers like your Burhal Balang, Kharkhar, and Dio river are found here. Here you have from evergreen to deciduous hill forest, grasslands are also there. Then the fauna which we find here is slender billed scimitar, and you have this we also find ruddy mongoose over here, and then Santhals, Gonds, Lodhas are found here. Now Simlipal Tiger Reserve, Kuldiha Wildlife Sanctuary are part of this particular reserve. The Biosphere Reserve has the largest zone of Sal in all India. Next Biosphere Reserve is Dibru Saikhovan, which is in Assam. It is part of the Dibrugarh and Tinsukia districts. Some of the rivers which drain here are the Dibru and the Brahmaputra. We have semi-wet evergreen forest. We also have deciduous forest. That means the vegetation is diverse, and some of the flora which we find is here Sarpagandhi and orchids are found here, and some of the animals which we find here are white, white winged wood duck, then we have wild buffalo, we have Hollock gibbon we find in this particular Biosphere Reserve. And the slide and the photographs which I am showing you, you can see how these can attract tourists, because each one of this is different from another, and the habitat, the ecosystem is different. The next one is the Dihang Dibang, which is in Arunachal Pradesh, and this is part of the Siang and Dibang Valley in Arunachal Pradesh, and the rivers which drain here are the Dihang and Dibang tributaries of Brahmaputra. Here we have subtropical type of vegetation, and so some of the trees which we find here are woody alpine meadow. The flora here we find the lady's sleeper orchid, then we have the fern, and some of the animals also are indigenous here. People also are indigenous, and this as the other biosphere reserves, here also we have certain indigenous flora fauna, and like I would like to mention, it has red panda, it has grain pit viper, it has Himalayan black bear. Buddhist and Mishmi tribes are found here. Moling National Park is part of this wildlife biosphere reserve. Then we have the Dibang Wildlife Sanctuary. We also have next as the Panchmari Biosphere Reserve, which is in Madhya Pradesh. It is in the Betul, Hoshangabad and Chhindwara districts of Madhya Pradesh. So, naturally you can see now the vegetation, flora and fauna one will find in this particular Biosphere Reserve would be very different from one we find in the northeastern part of the country. So, here we have the tropical monsoon climate, ferns, saltry are important. We find here wild buffalo, Bori Sanctuary, Panchmari Sanctuary, Satpura Sanctuary, they all are part of this, and they together are known as Satpura Tiger Reserve. It is often recognized as a genetic express highway linking two biological hotspots of the country, the eastern Himalayas and the western Ghats, and also as confluence of northern and southern type of vegetation. Now, we have the Khangche Donga, which is in Sikkim. It is part of Sikkim Hills, and River Tista drains this particular biosphere reserve. Now, this has a typical alpine Himalayan type of habitat where we find Sikkim rhododendron, and as it's at quite height, the flora varies with altitude. We find Tibetan sheep, we find snow partridge, we find musk deer over here. Now, Kanchenjunga National Park is part of this, and it is the India's first mixed heritage site. Agasthamaliu in Kerala is the one of the other biosphere reserves, which is part of the hottest biosphere biodiversity hotspots. Thorn moist deciduous trees are found here, and some of the flora which is found is the Rudraksha tree. Then you have the black plums. We find lion-tailed macaw and hornbill out here, and the Kani tribe is the indigenous habitat. This biosphere reserve also has some wildlife sanctuaries like Nayar, Pipara, Shendumi, Kalakat Tiger Reserve. The next we come to is the Achanak Amarkantak Biosphere Reserve, which is found in the state of Madhya Pradesh and parts of Chhattisgarh. Now, here river Narmada, Johila and Son is draining it, and again it is in the southern central part of India. So, naturally the habitat, the flora and fauna are different. Here you find the cheetahs, you find the black buck, you find the giant squirrels, barking deers, and the Mudia, Gurva, Agaria and Rajgong tribes inhabit this particular biosphere reserve. We have these Achanakamar Wildlife Sanctuary in this particular biosphere reserve. We come to the grain run of Kutch, which is in Gujarat. It is in the border areas of India and Pakistan, and Luni, Rupin and West Banas river drains into this particular area. Now, this has a desert and a mixed scrub type of vegetation because sand is there. There are also some mangroves in the eastern part of this particular grain run of Kutch, and arid desert conditions like help. So, naturally the birds which are found here are different, the animals which are found here are different, and we have Indian wild ass, greater and lesser flamingos found here. We have here the Kutch Desert Sanctuary, we have the wild ass sanctuary, and the two major ecosystems, the Great Rann of Kutch and the Little Rann of Kutch. We come to the cold desert, which is in Himachal Pradesh, and it is basically found in the Pin Valley, Chandrabhaga and Spiti valleys. Again, it is part of the Himalayan habitat. So, we have more of the harsh and cold climate, and the mean rainfall is very less, but we have very different type of animals here like ibex marmot, golden eagle, then we have the Tibetan gazelle. We have Kibbur Wildlife Sanctuary here, we have Pin Valley National Park, Chandratal Wildlife Sanctuary and Sarchu Wildlife Sanctuary. Next we come to the Seshachalam Hills, which is part of the Chittoor and Kadapa districts of Andhra Pradesh. It is again the moist deciduous type of flora is found here, as it has tropical monsoon climate. Jungle cat, great mouse deer are found here. The Sri Venkateshwara National Park and Sri Venkateshwara Wildlife Sanctuary are part of these biosphere reserves. So, we have the Panna Biosphere Reserve, which is again in Madhya Pradesh, and here also the vegetation is tropical dry deciduous, which is basically again a type of bamboo. So, here in this particular biosphere reserve you will find some type of bamboo type of grasses. It represents the northern boundary of the natural distribution of teak and the eastern limits of teak khardai mixed forests. We find tiger, chinkara, tree, long snouted crocodile or mugger here. Now, the Panna National Park or the Panna Tiger Reserve, the Gangao Wildlife Sanctuary, the Kane Gharial Wildlife Sanctuary, they are part of this Panna Biosphere Reserve. Now, see, what I have tried to do here is that I have given you information about the biosphere reserves as well as the wetlands of India. Now, they are basically the areas which have been protected, which have been conserved under different conventions signed by Government of India with intergovernmental or at the global level. But all of these bioreserves or wetlands are distinct and unique tourist destinations, and I should say this, that all of you should gather more information about them and make them your tourist destinations whenever you visit any part of the country. And if any wildlife sanctuary, any tiger reserve, any biosphere reserve is nearby, you should go and visit and see how the habitat has been contained there, has been conserved there, and how the ecosystem of that has been made not only environmental friendly but also socio culturally friendly. Thank you.